Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. We are back with the Ted Show. Truly one of my favorite human beings on the planet. Kendra Davies is here, my co-hostess with the mostest. We're talking out our series. We want to talk about the stuff nobody else seems to want to, or at least we want to have an intelligent conversation about some of the stuff that's going on in our own lives. Today, you picked the topic, but it happens to be my cross to bear lately. I don't know what's up with me. The limiting beliefs like to raise their ugly head, rear their ugly heads. And it can be so detrimental, you all, to your psyche and to your growth and reaching your goals. So we're going to talk all about that.
Do it.
Welcome. All of it.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing today, Kendra?
I am good. I am feeling like I probably need to pump up this ponytail, give you guys a little sass or something. I'm feeling like maybe something's wrong with my lighting. I don't know.
Anyway, you look great. I had somebody say, is your co-host on a billboard?
I am.
And you are. You're on the billboard near Rollins, right? Or it's about Rollins.
Yes, it's about Rollins. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So, all right. So before we take a deep dive into this awesome topic, for those people who are tuning in for the first time, tell them a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Kendra Davies, and I am a positive psychology coach, and I own Stellar Life Coaching here in Orlando, Florida. I work with clients one-on-one. I work with businesses, couples, you name it, I do it, and I specialize in the science of happiness. So a lot of the topics and the methods that I utilize to work with people and myself are founded from positive psychology.
I love positive psychology. All right, so tell us a little bit. Obviously, I share a ritual every week because it's the same. Around Friday night, Saturday, I text you. I go, all right, do we have a topic this week? And you always come up with like 3 amazing ones, and I never know what to choose. But this particular one has just hit home lately. I'm not in a negative space, but I have let some of those limiting beliefs creep into my head. And I think a lot of us don't realize that they are creeping fast, and then they begin to take over. So I would love for you to give us kind of a history, define limiting beliefs, and then let's jump.
Okay, so a limiting belief is any idea, thought, feeling, or sensation that you have about yourself, the world, or other people that says something can happen. I can't do this. I can't survive this. I can't live through this. I can't accomplish this. It is Brene Brown calls it the gremlins, yes, that live in our head. It's the thing that undermines your success when you have something and you say, oh, but I should have done this sooner. Yes?
Yes.
So, hey, Rose.
Hi, Rose.
So a limiting belief, it could be anything. It could be I'm not smart enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not brave enough, I'm not outgoing enough. I'm not good at something. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a good mom. I'm not a good wife. You name it. If it prevents you from being the person that you believe that you are or want to be, that is a limiting belief.
So it's like this narrative that runs through your brain.
Yeah.
You've created it, by the way, folks. I know you don't want to hear that, but you've created the limiting belief. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all you. You've taken all these outside things in, and now you're letting them process and seep in. And so instead of you being positive, you're allowing these thoughts to come in and kind of take over. And so we have this thing where we constantly, it's almost like a defense mechanism. And I want to talk about that. Like it's easier for me to go, well, I wouldn't be good at that, or I can't do that, than trying and then possibly failing. And so I think that's where a lot of it comes in. Talk about that, because I think a lot of people go, that's not in my wheelhouse, or, oh God, I'd be so bad at that. When in reality, they're dying to try it. They're dying to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think so a few things. Like one, I believe that limiting beliefs aren't necessarily, like we generate them, but we learn them. Like limiting beliefs are learned things. They're not inherent in us. We weren't born thinking that we're not smart enough. Yes. We learned that, right? Either by experience where we deduced that is what the people who mattered or who had authority, our parents, our caretakers, our teachers, our mentors. I have adult clients who worked with other coaches or other therapists who deduced information from those interactions, and they became limiting beliefs that they then carried, right? So you do create it in your mind, but I want to say that it's important that they're not inherent. Like, you don't have them because you're fundamentally flawed. You have them because you've had experiences where you realized it is in your best interest to not try to do that. It's dangerous to have hope. It's dangerous to feel love. It's dangerous to take the chance or the risk to be bigger or better. It's too scary to be seen or to be heard. Like, those are things that you learn from traumatic experiences, from deep pain and hurt, disappointment, let down. Like, we learn these things. So you're not just generating them from thin air.
So I love that. I think that's so important, that point, because you're right. You get that information, it comes in, and then you process it, and then eventually it becomes a belief that is limiting you from getting what you want. I had somebody ask before we went live, is that the reason why I'm always in a negative relationship and constantly cycling through? Because I don't believe I deserve anymore. Is that what that person might be experiencing?
So I can use my own, right? Like, I do a lot of my own work. So we're not talking about shit that I don't do. And so one of my limiting beliefs that I have worked on to exhaustion is this idea that I'm unlovable. Right? That I am hard to love. Like, I am just a hard person to love. I'm intimidating. I'm too loud. I'm too much. I'm too everything, right? I'm too confrontational. I'm not confrontational enough. I'm not lovable, right? That is the limiting belief. And so in the early parts of my life, my early romantic relationships, the way it manifested wasn't that I just wasn't loved. It was that I would get in relationships with emotionally unavailable people, and then I would act unlovable. I would be impossible to please. I would be nagging. I would be relentless. I would know in my guts that they were going to leave. I would know it. I would know that they were going to leave, and I would behave in such a way that eventually the only thing left for them to do was to leave, therefore reinforce my belief that I am unlovable.
Fascinating. So it was like you brought it to fruition.
100%.
You made it so that limiting belief was going to come true. Damn it, no matter what happened, you were going to make sure that you proved yourself right, that limiting belief was going to come to fruition. That's 100%. Fascinating.
And then
I'm curious. I want to know, though, personally, if you share, why the unlovable? Because I think that's such a big one. I think there are a lot of people who watch and listen and who are dealing with things that actually feel like they're unlovable, don't deserve love, and they operate from that limiting belief. Why for you?
So I would say in my childhood, like, my parents, they did absolutely the best that they could. And unfortunately, it did not translate. You know what I mean? There's abandonment, there's neglect, there's emotional abandonment and emotional neglect, like there's a whole string of things. I started drinking and doing drugs when I was 9 years old. Jeez. And I ended up getting sober when I was 14, but between 9 and 14, I went from like sneaking drinks to like crack. So it was like, wow, super fast. And like my whole life kind of imploded, right? I had numerous experiences, traumatic in nature, obviously, as a child, just from that it became dangerous to feel pretty. It became dangerous to be seen. It became also an asset, right? Like, you learn that your body is a currency. You learn that that what you think doesn't actually matter, and how you feel and what you want doesn't really matter to these people. And so you learn how to shut that off. And the byproduct of believing those things about yourself is that you're obviously not lovable. If you were lovable, then they would care, right? The people who would be watching would stop it, right?
Correct.
Now, again, I think it's important that we don't try to rewrite the past. Like, I know what my part is as a recovering alcoholic and drug addict who's been sober for, it'll be 20 years this November. Yes.
Congratulations. Hey. Awesome.
So I think that at the end of the day, for me, I did not have experiences where I was loved unconditionally. The love that was presented to me always had conditions. And it was never enough, it was never enough to get it all the time. It was sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, my dad would hang out with me if I would go fishing with him, but that was about it, right? Like, there was nothing that Kendra wasn't special for being Kendra. Kendra could be special while she went fishing with dad.
Only then. That was where you were special. Fascinating. So I think a lot of people feel that, right? You feel like you're given that condition. All right. So, and then you rise up to the challenge. All right.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm only going to be good in this, or I'm bad in every other scenario. What do you think about people who get in that comfort zone? Because having limited beliefs, believe it or not, I think can be a defense mechanism, and you get comfortable with it. It's the known. We've talked about this before. How that's almost your known. And so you may hate it, but stepping outside is scary. Like you said, being attractive or feeling like somebody would think you're attractive is incredibly scary. So what's easier to go find somebody who's going to show you that you are unattractive, Kendra?
Exactly. And to let myself go, to not take value in my body, to not take care of myself, to think that when I get on this show, what matters most is the fact that I don't have makeup. Yes. I mean, that's an example of how it still shows up today, right? Like, because my value is here. Right. So I think, to your point, the point about limiting beliefs, and the reason why I think it's so important as a coach and what I do for a living and doing my own personal work, is because eventually you find yourself in situations where these limiting beliefs no longer work. Like, it doesn't make any sense. When I was in danger, yes, it made sense to believe that my physical appearance could be dangerous, that to be seen and to be heard and to be valued could be scary or hard or whatever, right? But I'm not there anymore. Like, I'm grown now. I have my own son. I have my own business. I have my own success. I have these things. This limiting belief doesn't actually serve to protect me anymore. In fact, it now causes problems. It causes challenges. It brings more harm than it does good. Right. And this is the thing that happens. This is when our whole lives get fucking blown up, right? You lose your job, you get divorced, like shit just goes sideways. It's because all those beliefs and all of those things that we thought were true about ourselves, they come to a point and then it goes.
Yes.
It's scorched earth, and what grows there is like the fruit of life.
Correct. Let me ask you, so I'll share my limiting belief that I've been struggling. That struggling might be strong, but I'll use it because it is a struggle. Mine has been that I believe that I have a certain value, and I don't think that my value is higher. Most people think my value is higher. But I put a limit on what the value is, and I undervalue my worth to a charity I'm working on, or a project I'm working on, or a team I'm on. I know I'm probably the nicest guy at the table. I'll give myself that. But if you come to putting a value on it, I will self-deprecate to the point of, oh God, no, or no, I don't need that, or I only need this, when in reality, I could ask for this and I don't do it. And so that's been my challenge. This year has brought that to surface for some reason. I thought I had handled that pretty well, like we all think that we handle all of our demons pretty well. But that has been mine. And I feel like people I've talked to also feel the same way. They get to that point, and because they haven't figured out how to deal with it, or they haven't gotten past it, it rears its ugly head again. And so you're back in that situation and back feeling like I don't have the value, I don't have the worth to ask for this or to do that.
Yeah. And, you know, and to me, Ted, like, as I'm listening to you talk, in my mind, I'm like, so at some point in time, we learned that it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to believe that you have more value. It is
Correct.
safer to stay here, right? Maybe just right above mediocre, because let's be real, you can't rock that shirt and think you're mediocre, my friend. That doesn't fucking happen. So let's just say that this is just above mediocre, right? Like you're like medium awesome, right?
Yes.
Some point in time, and this has happened to me, right? Like I've had the experience where I walked in thinking I was the bee's knees, and then I get the fucking rug pulled out from underneath me, and it turns out that I overvalued myself, and then you get corrected, and you never want to have that experience again, right? So you just fall back
Correct.
to that humble pie, and you just fucking make your house there. But
Yes.
something happens when we find our purpose, right? Like I have found that I have only been knocked down and overvalued myself for things that I was trying to do to make other people believe that I was good. When I'm in my purpose, I always go for the undervalue, which is weird because I'm in my purpose. Like this is, people will want to give me the money for this magic, right? Like I can manifest my abundance. But the reality is that it is safer to undervalue than to overvalue.
Yes.
I used to hate saying the words, I can change people's lives. I used to hate saying that because it was like, ooh, there's always a caveat. Like every time I say it out loud to anyone, like, come on this retreat, it can change your life. This work that we do, this work that I've created can change your life. In my head, I'm like, if you do the work. Like I finish the sentence because I know that it's not me who does the magic, right?
Correct.
Like it's them. But to be able to be in my purpose, I have to be able to own what the end result could be.
Right.
And you can be magical. And this organization could value you. This organization could value you. You are in your purpose, bringing your magic to the world. There's a difference between overvaluing yourself and having confidence and knowing who you are because you've done your work and you see yourself clearly and that you know it's not ego and you know you're not just blowing smoke up people's asses trying to convince them to give you their money. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
I don't have that.
I feel like the other thing that comes into play, you touched on a little bit. So if I get rid of my limiting beliefs and I set a value that I know that I'm valued at, well, crap, if they buy into it, then I've got imposter syndrome. Holy crap, now I have to deliver. And so that also adds to that fear of, well, if I just stick to my limiting beliefs, then I don't really have to prove anything because I'm kind of only here.
Sure.
And I think
mediocre.
Yes, it's back to the media. Oh, yeah, I'm good enough. I mean, I dress flashy, so they'll excuse whatever it is that I might not do right. But when somebody buys into it because you have gotten past that limiting belief, the other thing that I feel like has pulled me back is, holy crap, now I have to deliver. Now they're going to know I'm a fake or a fraud or imposter.
Yes. And see, and this is the beauty about this work. Because to me, if we address the root of a limiting belief, you're going to see how it pops up in all of these different ways. It's the same belief restructured and shape shifted into something else, right? To me, it's the same limiting belief. It's exactly the same. And at the end of the day, if I don't believe that I can do what I'm saying I can do, I will never be able to do it. If I don't believe that it's possible, then it's not going to be possible, right? What I have done for myself, like my work around this sort of thought, is that if it comes down to other people and their opinions, their money, their ideas, and what they're going to value, it is none of my business. I can set my prices.
I like that.
If you look at coaches, not very many publish their prices up front. And I'm just like, boom, bitches. Like, this is how much, like you call me, you know the details, like you make your decision. That's the price. Now, am I flexible? Can you do this? Can you have payment plans? Sure. Yes. Okay. But the ask is made. you know what the information is, I know what the information is, and I don't count your money. I have clients that work at Walmart, and I have clients who own finance firms.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I don't count your
love that.
I don't also count your love. I don't count what you value. Like, I fired myself from giving a shit about all of that. Like, if I focus here, stay in my lane and stay in my purpose and stay in my values. And if I know who I am and what I'm bringing to the table and what I'm saying I'm going to do, that's all that fucking matters.
Right.
The rest of
I love
it goes
that.
away.
I love that the money is that them count their money. That is on them and not you. But that is that's an emancipating feeling.
Yeah.
I recently had to do that for a charity thing that we've been working on a grant for. And I just felt like we needed to ask for more.
Mm-hmm.
But my limiting belief in the back was like, well, we haven't built up enough. We don't have our program strong enough. And I'm like, no, we do. Mm-hmm. And so I let them do it. Now, this is after the fact that I can go back and know I just did what you said. Because then I was like, holy crap, they bought into it. Get them to sign it fast before they change their minds and realize what a crazy bunch of people we are. But you're absolutely right. The minute that I stopped worrying about what their pocketbook was or what their value was or whatever their thing was, mm-hmm. then I could visit my value and I could know that that's where it needed to be.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
And remembering that if I speak to somebody and they're just like, oh, your hourly rate is too much. I mean, I don't count their money. That might be too much for them. Right? I mean that my value has changed because they can't afford it, right? Like the equivocations of these things, those are false equivocations. Like if you wouldn't have got that grant, that is not a validation that your program isn't strong enough or that you didn't build it up enough. Right. You know, what is that saying? Like your value doesn't decrease based on somebody else's inability to see it.
Yes, I love that quote. And
that's the whole truth.
So what does somebody do, Kendra, to kind of begin to address that? Because it's you and I are works in progress for a very, very, very long time. And so if somebody's listening to this going, oh my God, that's exactly me. Mm-hmm. What are some first steps that they can do to begin the evaluation process to get past it?
So I think first and foremost is identifying the limiting belief. And believe it or not, I think we've touched on this a few times. I think this is one of the hardest steps, right? Because we'll come in and we'll talk about it being about money, right? I have a limiting belief about money. And then when we really distill it down, we come to a limiting belief kind of like what you were talking about, which actually isn't about value or money at all. It's about not feeling secure, right? Like I don't feel secure enough in myself. I don't feel like I have the information. I don't know myself. That is my limiting belief. A lot of the times my experience is that when people come in and they start talking about their fears, and fears and limiting beliefs go together sometimes, what is actually more true isn't the thing that we fear, but rather we fear that we won't be able to overcome it. Like, I won't be able to handle it if he leaves me. I won't be able to handle it if this person passes. I won't be able to handle it if my business closes. I won't be able to handle it if I have to go get another 9-to-5 job, right? We have this in our head. So identifying that limiting belief or that fear and really trying to peel back the layers. I call it the so what test, right? It's a really common thing researchers use to find their hypothesis for research. And you basically say, so what? I'm afraid I'm overvaluing myself. So what? Well, if I overvalue myself, then they're going to think that, that I'm not worth what I say I'm worth. So what? Right? Like, and do enough. When you get to that root, you're going to fucking know because you're going to feel it. You know what I mean? So identify that limiting belief, right? Identify the root if you can. Like ask yourself, when was the first time you felt like that? When was the first time you felt unlovable? When was the first time you felt like you couldn't trust yourself? When was the first time you felt like you weren't smart enough? Really understand where it comes from. Because one of the biggest blocks people have to breaking through limiting beliefs is that they hate the limiting belief rather than realizing you have to love it, because at some point in your life, it saved you.
Right.
It saved you.
Yes.
I'm alive today because I learned to adapt to dangerous situations and people as a child. That limiting belief saved my life. There are people who did not make it. There are people who did not make it, and I did. Who knows why? I believe it's that belief that I formed that said, play small, dim your light, hide, hunker down. That thing probably saved my life. It doesn't serve me now. But when you understand where it comes from, have compassion for yourself.
I love
Realize that you made this belief at a time where you needed it and it saved you. Love it. Yes?
Yes.
And then pay attention to your values. Ask yourself, what does this limiting belief value? For me, my limiting belief about being unlovable, it values dishonesty because it requires me to play small. It requires me to pretend like I'm not smart. It requires me to pretend like I'm too sensitive to be able to have hard conversations. You know what I mean? This limiting belief values so many things that are actually nowhere near who I am as a person, right? Like who I think I am in the world. And then you bridge the gap. So if your limiting belief values dishonesty and it values disappointment and it values mediocrity, right? Challenge yourself. What are the opposite values that you believe are true about yourself? I'm an honest person. I don't dim my light to make other people comfortable. I can know who I am. I can trust myself, right? And then formulate a new belief. Replace the old belief. Replace it. Because you can't not think a thought. If I say don't think about pink elephants, what are you going to think about?
First thing, pink elephants.
Exactly. So you can't just be like, Kendra, don't think you're not lovable, right? Like I have to replace it with a new, more useful and more accurate belief. And for me, that belief is not just that I am lovable, I am easy to love. I am easy to love. And I can identify the values that go along with that. I am compassionate. I am kind. I value other people and their time. I have brave, hard conversations. I don't judge people by their worst deeds, right? This is what I believe it means. Yes. And now I know how to show up in the world. I know how to take that limiting belief, turn it around on its head, and I know exactly how to behave. And when I get myself in tricky situations like you are with your grant, I can ask myself, am I in my values? Which one am I valuing? Am I valuing dishonesty today? Or am I valuing honesty? Am I valuing truth telling? Am I valuing justice? Right? Like it gives you this capacity to really, really know, are you living within your own values?
I love it. All right. So, guys, what she said, that's a lot to take in, and it's so powerful. And so a lot of people are probably sitting there going, I can't do that on my own. Well, maybe you can't, but guess what? You have Kendra Davies, Stellar Life Coaching, you can reach out to. Perfect segue. Terrible segue, but it's needed to be said because I think people leave and they go, oh, God, she's right. And then they don't do anything because they get stuck on the first step. Or so this is why a coach can be so powerful and impactful in your lives. And how do they reach you, Kendra, if they are interested in learning more about how to overcome and deal with those limiting beliefs?
For sure. So I want to preface this by saying, obviously, I want you to call me. I want to work with you. Yes, I do. I also want to say that it doesn't matter if it's with me. You can get with a therapist, a coach. You can get with your pastor. You can buy a workbook online. You start where you are. There's no wrong way to start. But if you want to start with your girl, you can call me. Yes. You can go to stellarlifecoaching.com. My phone number is on the website. You can text that number. You guys, I am tagged in every.
Did we lose her? She got frozen. There she is.
Hey.
You were frozen for a minute.
Oh, which part?
You're tagged in every. That's all I heard.
Okay, I'm tagged in everything. Send me a Facebook message. You can feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
Thank you. And thank you for my weekly coaching, therapy, pastor, bartender, whatever it is, conversation, because it's so enlightening. And I think people look forward to this because the things that we talk about, so many people we know are dealing with and trying to figure out how to maneuver through. So thank you for your love and support and all the joy you bring. Kendra Davies, StellarLifeCoaching.com. We'll be back next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm excited.
It'll be fun.
All right, guys, we love you. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.